Yes.
I've been playing like bars and clubs for a little bit, and I've never had an agent before, talent agent. So I've had people come up to me and tell me, you know, like, we like your music, we like what you do, but it's different because, you know, I play the blues. I love the blues and I love rock and folk music. That's not as big anymore. And
there's a market for it.
So if I get
there's a lot of people that like blues. One of the things I'm doing in May is I'm going back to Ohio to record with a blues situation. There is a market for it,
so
especially in other countries.
So if will it be easier to find work like that, to do stuff, or to do film in studios and stuff, or to get my music published, or is it just like, is it better to like not pay the money and just do it on my own?
You can do it on your own for a while, okay? But where you need outside help is when you start to branch out and you want your music to be distributed in other countries. And also, let's say something works out and 34,000 people want a record from you, want a blues record. You come up with a song, you record it, maybe it gets on YouTube or whatever, and it gets a lot of hits. What are you going to do? How are you going to fill all those orders? If you could do them all yourself, you could make all the money. That'd be good, but you can't, and you don't have that kind of distribution. That's when you need help. The chances are you'll be approached by a manager before you're approached by an agent, okay? A manager and an agent to do two different things. A manager guides career, and an agent gets you bookings, all right? And actually in this state, all states are different, but in this state, you're actually not supposed to be both because there's a conflict of interest. You could work your artist to death because for your commission. So what I would do, if I were you, keep doing what you're doing, and try to spread out. If you only work in this town, spread out. Try to do some gigs in San Diego. Try to do some gigs up north. And a lot of people still really do like blues. They really do.
I used to be a singer in a band, and we made an EP. We played at some, you know, pretty big places down in Hollywood and LA and stuff. And we didn't really get looked at or anything because no one would, you know, we didn't.
Well, there's so many people that want it. Another thing these days, this is something, I'm glad you brought that up, because this is something that's real important these days. A lot of times, I see the kids fabricate their own careers. What they'll do is they'll get their parents to help them play the whiskey a go-go, and they'll put up $500, $600, $700, and they'll invite their friends, and what they have is they have their own manufactured little rock scene. That's not the way it should work. That's not good, that's not healthy. Because you need to get out there and you need to let people really, really follow you. You need to do something that people really want to hear, and they want to hear you do it. So, the situation with getting out there and playing a little bit, you have to be more patient than that. You just have to keep doing it. Well, get the guys together and go do some more gigs.
But that's the problem. I'm not in a band anymore. We broke up because of internal problems, and I'm having problems getting myself out there.
Well, you said you were the singer, right?
Yeah.
Okay, the two hardest things, the two things that people want the most when you're putting bands together is a bass player that sings and a lead singer that isn't too difficult to deal with. Actually, in the business, there's a saying: the lead singer has L.S.D. That's lead singer's disease. That means he's pompous and he wants everybody else to work for him and do all the work, and he wants to sit and kick back in the hotel room until it's time to do the show. So the two things that are the hardest to find is a bass player that sings, okay, backup, and a lead singer that isn't too difficult to deal with. Yeah. So it seems like, from what you're telling me, it seems like you'd still like to be doing it.
Yeah, I'm just
get another bunch of guys together.
Yeah. It's just, that's the problem. I can't.
One thing great about where we live in Southern California is there are so many musicians here. There is such a wealth.
That's the worst part.
It can be the worst part too. It can be a bad part. But the good part about it is there are so many to choose from. You have a talent pool here that exists nowhere else. There are so many. So get another bunch of guys together. Go out and do it. go out and do it. I recommend to all of you, no matter how serious you are, especially you if you're into classical music, just keep in mind what I said about having something else to fall back on. It's not a shame to have another career that you can fall back on, because there will be times when you are not doing any music at all. Like an actor. Actors don't work all the time. Yeah. Anybody have any other questions or comments? Yes, sir.
Yeah, you mentioned, you talked a little bit about marketability and education. Can you, I mean, we've got a lot of kids in here that are aspiring musicians. What are some of the courses that kids should be focusing on or taking in the next level in college, or even just in the music industry themselves, to make themselves more marketable and attractive?
Okay, good. What traditionally happened is a lot of your musicians from long ago, they were in the school band or the orchestra. That's something that you don't see as much anymore. A lot of them, the programs have been cut out. If you do have access to music courses, of course, what you would want to do is you'd want to be sure that you take a music appreciation class. You need to know a music appreciation class, because that breaks down the different levels of music, and you can find out what the different periods are in music. You also would be well served, no matter what instrument you want to play, you should take some basic piano. That's a really good suggestion. Take a basic piano class, even if you don't want to go on in it. Everything that we do musically, all the harmonies that we sing, everything is right there in front of you. So I'm not saying to take 2 lessons a week and study for 10 years if that's not your thing, but you should say take some basic piano. Now, when you go on, when you're not in high school anymore, you can actually take a music course, or you can major in something else and minor in music. When my mother went to UCLA for music school, she majored in music and minored in psychology. So it's a good idea to, if that's going to be your major, they'll tell you all the courses that you need to take. But you're well served to take some piano so that you have everything right in front of you and you can understand things, no matter what kind of music you're involved in. Now, what you want to do is you want to get a master's degree in music if you're going to teach music. That's real important.
Are some schools better than others?
There are. USC's great. UCLA is great. Now, there are some schools that are world-renowned that you have to audition to get into, like Juilliard. That's a really, really, really prestigious music school. But again, there's been a lot of people that went to Juilliard. I've even met some, and they weren't working in music anymore. There's no guarantee. It's not like when you go to medical school and you get that certificate that says you're a doctor. You can go to Juilliard, you could go to Boston School of Music, that's another real prestigious one. There's one up in San Francisco that's really prestigious, the name escapes me right now. Yeah.
In Los Angeles.
Those schools are the top.
Yeah, I just auditioned for Berkeley.
You did? Yeah, Berkeley, that's what it is, Berkeley.
Yeah, 2 weeks ago. So it was interesting.
How was the audition handled?
Well, like you said, all the call and response was on piano. I was auditioning with my guitar, but I was going for songwriting.
Okay.
And then like you really have to know your sheet music. You have to be able to sight read, and that was a big part. But they take a lot of kids who don't sight read, and then it was just improvisation over blues, which I did really good at. And then you audition your song, and so that's pretty much the whole process. It was a lot easier than I thought it was going to be. But if you're not well-rounded in music, like read a little bit of sight reading, and you can improvise and play your own song and call and response. If you can't do all of that, then they're not going to take you. So it's and
you have to be well-rounded.
And then you have an interview where you.
That's why I said you should study a little bit of keyboard.
Yeah, exactly.
Because everything is right in front of you, and you got it all right in front of you. One thing I want to say really quick, and then I'll take your question, is you don't want to do what a lot of the musicians from my generation did. They pigeonholed themselves. They only wanted to play metal. They only wanted to play this kind of rock. They only wanted to sound like Black Sabbath. That's no good. That's like a painter that only wants to paint white kitchens. If you're in music, you got to be diversified to a degree. If somebody says, will you do this session? Well, I don't know anything about that kind of music. Well, just shut up and go to it, because that's the way you learn. And that's real important in music. You need to diversify yourself. Do not only play one kind of music. Listen, nothing makes me more happy than to compose and to work with music that's just specifically made for the keyboard, for piano. Actually, the pianoforte in particular. Nothing. I love it. But if something comes up, like a tour of Japan or whatever, and they're willing to pay good money, hey, I'll be a singer again, no problem.